There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, sitting across the board where he has been for going on 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the paranormal night shift master himself, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Howdy.
Listen, we are here and we are part of the Stitcher family where we belong. And for those of you that have just found our show, a very quick, brief introduction to our program. We are the best in paranormal talk radio. How do we make such a big claim? Because Tim's mom and my mom both told us we're the best. So I believe it. They don't lie to us, folks.
Nope.
So if that's what they tell us, we're going to go with that. We are, and we have been the best in paranormal talk radio for 15 years. And we welcome you to the Darkness Radio Army. Our Army of Darkness Radio is getting bigger by the day. What do we talk about here? That's a great question. We talk about ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, monsters, mysteries, myths, conspiracies, anything fringe, anomalous, and weird. You'll find it right here on our program every week. And we're going to be delivering programs to you every Wednesday and Thursday going forward, with supernatural news on Wednesday and ParaShare, which is your emails sending in your personal encounters. We'll read those stories on the air. We'll also talk about the week in weird news from around the world, all the strange supernatural stories that have popped up, from Yeti sightings to gremlins to ghosts, Ouija board encounters, whatever is in the news, we're going to talk about it. Then on Thursdays, we always have a brand new guest with us, talking about a myriad of different topics, experts in every field, authors, experiencers, maybe some of your favorite celebrities from some of your favorite paranormal TV shows. So you're new to Darkness Radio, but the name Dave Schrader sounds familiar to you. Well, I've appeared on about 7 or 8 episodes of Ghost Adventures, plus their 2 live specials. I was part of Paranormal Challenge, and I've appeared on episodes of Paranormal State, Haunted Hospitals, and there's a couple other cool specials coming up soon. I was also part of Haunted Salem Live, and I just wrapped up filming season 2 of the Travel Channel hit TV series, The Holzer Files. I'm the lead investigator on that show, where we look into the original case files of the OG ghost hunter, Hans Holzer, America's first ghost hunter, and we re-examine some of his cases to look and see if there is still any story left, if there are any spiritual beings that are still in need of help or contact. We go back and we examine that, and we do that on the Travel Channel. That is coming up here. The new season begins October 29th on Travel Channel. Our premiere, Tim, I got to like this. Our premiere on Travel Channel this year is a little late on the 29th. We're going to be 11 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. That's 10 p.m. Central Time, only because we are immediately following the Ghost Adventures special Halloween program. It's a 2-hour investigation of Joe Exotic's zoo.
Oh, Tim, you got to like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be on right after that. And then we slip back the following week into our regular time schedule, which is 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, 9 p.m. Central. Tim Dennis is the host of Darkness Radio, along with me, also of True Crime Tuesday. And you can see him every week on a program on Travel Channel called Paranormal Night Shift. He is one of a few of the experts that the series relies on to examine cases, stories, and strange happenings and weigh in on those. You can check that out on Travel Channel. Again, that program airs on Thursday nights, and it is called Paranormal Night Shift. So now that we've caught up our new listeners and we've irritated our past listeners because they know all of this, I feel that we've got that out of the way. But I wanted to make a quick, brief introduction. Tim and I have been on Stitcher before with Darkness Radio for many years when we were with our original radio stations. We left to go to a different podcast platform. We are back where we belong. We are so thankful to be here, and thank you all for joining us. Now, for all of our listeners that have been following along, we have the Darchives available. For the first time, we are going as deep as we can. Tim is working his fingers to the bone. For the new people, what the hell is a Darchive? Well, we've been on the air almost 15 years, and we've got thousands and thousands of hours. As a matter of fact, I think last count, Tim, you said somewhere in a neighborhood of about 6,500 hours.
Yep, which will be rolling out. It'll all eventually be out by Christmas, but it's going to be rolled out and rolled out and rolled out, and you'll start seeing episodes hit your grubby little fingers as we speak. Right. Yep.
Now, for those of you that have been following us, we've been hearing that forever, but we're at that point. We finally have all the Darchives that we were able to recover. We have got them. Tim is editing, cleaning them up, and going to be posting them every week, so you'll be able to get the Darchives. Well, how do you get the Darchives? Well, that's a great question. As you know, you can listen to our show with ads, or you can get the show without ads, and the same can be said with our Darchives and True Crime Tuesday. So, very quickly, Tim, how can our listeners, both new and old, listen to our show ad-free and get our Darchives ad-free? What can they do to do that?
It is so simple, Dave. There's StitcherPremium.com. It's as simple as that. If you go to StitcherPremium.com and simply put in a code, DARKNESS, you can get 1 free month free to get this show and get True Crime Tuesday. To get 1 month free and get both shows ad free, which is exciting. True Crime Tuesday ad free, Darkness Radio and its archives, all the way back to 2006. And I tell you, Dave, when you think about the people we have had on Darkness Radio, it spans everyone you've ever seen on television. Every paranormal expert you can imagine, everyone who's ever had a paranormal experience, I think, has been on our show since 2006.
Many friends that we've lost: Lorraine Warren, Stanton Friedman, Father Andy Calder. Yep. Mark and Debbie Constantino. George Norrie has been a guest on our program. There have been so many fantastic guests like Dan Aykroyd, Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, who played Jason in the Friday the 13th movies. Kane Hodder has been a guest on our show, I think, a few times. Robert Englund has been a guest on our show a few times. We have got amazing guests, musicians. How about Corey Taylor from Slipknot?
Yep.
He's been on our show, I think, twice now.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of great opportunity to talk to some of the most amazing people, and now you get the chance to go back and revisit some of our favorite episodes and some of the most bizarre and unusual guests we've ever had.
So to get a trial month free, you just go to StitcherPremium.com. You put in your code DARKNESS at that window. When you go to checkout, you'll get a trial month free, and you can either get your monthly subscription for $5 a month, or for $34.99, you can get a full year, which you save on the monthly fee of $5 a month by getting your yearly price there, which is an amazing amount. And you don't just get the Darkness Radio programs of Darkness Radio and True Crime Tuesday, Dave. You get everything that Stitcher has in its library, its vast library of programs. In Stitcher Premium as well, all ad-free, which that's an amazing value.
It really is. You can't get a better value than signing up for that. So thank you. Welcome. We do have a true crime program that will come out every Tuesday. So now listeners old and new can find True Crime Tuesday every Tuesday, where we examine some of the most strange and unusual true crimes and then enjoy laughing along together with dumb crimes and stupid criminals, where we examine some of the weirdest crimes that have taken place over the past week all around the world, mostly in Florida, but all around the world. And then Wednesday and Thursday, you'll get brand new episodes of Darkness Radio, because last week we threw it out to our audience. What would you like? Would you like us to continue to bring you Darkness Radio on Saturdays and Sundays, or bring it to you Wednesdays and Thursdays? Overwhelmingly, Tim, I have tens of emails from listeners.
Tens?
tens of emails for listeners that all want us to make the switch. I think we had 2 that said, no, stay with the weekends, but you can listen to us whenever once you've got the show. So there you go. That's what's going on. We're excited to be here. We're excited you're here. Let's begin today's Supernatural News ParaShare. We've got your emails. You can email me your real life encounters with the strange and supernatural. Anything from ghosts to angels, Ouija board to demonic realm. Maybe you've seen an elf, a gnome, or an imp, and you were sober when it happened. Maybe you've been knocked in the knee by a shillelagh from a leprechaun. We want to hear your story. You can email them to me, dave@darknessradio.com. We're not here to judge. We just want to share your strange and unusual encounters. Maybe you're a little bit braver and you'd like to pick up the phone and call us. You can do that and leave a voicemail on our Voices from Beyond voicemail system at 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977, and you can leave us a voicemail telling us your encounter. We'll play it on an upcoming episode of Darkness Radio. And if it's longer than the 3-minute segment they allow, just hang up, call right back, and continue your story. Tim, through the magic of editing, will piece it all together into one beautifully cohesive story so that we can share it with our audience and give you the glory you so richly deserve. How does that work? Let's show them, Tim. Let's go to our first caller.
Hi, Dave. Tim, this is Lee from Orlando. Actually called you guys a couple of times, and I know I'm probably a few episodes behind, but I just finished listening to one where Dave was whining and he was crying that we listeners have not called in enough. So, Dave, sit back, put your feet up, relax, let me shoulder the burden for you for just the next few minutes, okay? So a few months back, Dave, Tim, you probably remember, I think Dave was talking about Michael and Marty Perry, the psychic medium husband and wife team, and how great they were, and just, you know, you guys had heard nothing but just wonderful reviews about the two of them. So I remembered seeing them on Ghost Adventures for several episodes, and I thought, gosh, I would just love to talk to those guys and get a reading. And so through much trial and tribulation, I was finally able to get something scheduled with them. And, better than advertised. Fantastic. And Michael actually, came up with some information, about, something that had happened in my life about 20 years back or so that no one, knows about. I'd never told anyone. And he knew all about it, told me all about it, and actually kind of gave me some closure, which was fantastic. My wife actually happened to be on the call, very skeptical, very, very skeptical person, and she doesn't believe in any of this stuff. And by the end of the talk, she, while is still skeptical, she completely believes that Michael and Marty do what they say they can do. But the reason for my call is my wife's dad came through and had a good talk with him. And then once we got off the phone call with them, went to bed that night. And he came through to me in a dream, just as clear as can be, and was communicating to me that he was going to be in contact via some kind of electronic device. I took that to mean a computer or a cell phone or something, and that he was going to, there would be a double meaning, that the communication would not literally be about him, but there would be an underlying feeling of, oh, well, this is from him. So I woke up the next morning, completely forgotten about this dream that I had. So I pick up the phone and I look at it, and it, on the screen, it had never done this before and has not done it since. But I looked at it and it said, "Good morning, Lee. The temperature outside today is, whatever it was, such and such degrees." I was just so confused because, like I said, my phone had never done that before. But I looked at it, and I kind of thought about it. Well, I wonder if that's not him just saying, "Hey, remember that dream you had last night, that was me. Which of course, I think that it was. And like I say, this was, a few months ago, and my phone has not done that since. So I think that was validation, not only of him coming through that night, but the validation of him, coming through, Michael, and Marty Perry. And so for everybody out there listening, man, I can't recommend those guys enough. They are really fantastic. Dave, Tim, thanks a lot for the time. Dave, back to you.
See, it's that simple, folks. Just call us, 651-300-4977, and you can actually leave us a voicemail there telling us your tale. We'll play it on an upcoming episode. You can always email your story to us if you're a little bit frightened to talk and don't want your voice being heard. We understand that, but we'd prefer to hear your lovely voices. But you can always email us, Dave, at darknessradio.com. Let's start with some news, Tim. We have some sad news to begin this week with.
Okay.
In the world of astrology and the paranormal, Jackie Stallone, astrologist to the stars and mother to actors Sylvester and Frank Stallone, died on Monday. She was 98 years old.
Yeah.
Frank Stallone, the younger brother to Sylvester, made the announcement on Monday night saying his mother had died that morning. She was a remarkable woman working out every day, full of spunk and fearless. She died in her sleep, as she had wished. It was hard not to like her. She was very eccentric and a flamboyant person. She lived through Prohibition, the Depression, World War II. I would talk to her for hours about the 20s, 30s, and 40s. It was a history lesson. Her mind was as sharp as a razor till the day she died. That's what Frank Stallone wrote on his Facebook page. Beyond being the mother of actors Sylvester, Frank, and Tony Diatalo, Stallone became well known in the 1990s for publishing a series of astrology books and starting her own psychic hotline. Now, this is something, of course, that I watched in the 80s. I know Tim did as well. She appeared in the 1980s wrestling program Glow, The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which was later adapted to Netflix on a TV show of the same name. Jacqueline Stallone was born Jacqueline Frances Labofish on November 29th, 1921 in Washington, D.C. As a young woman, she worked as a trapeze artist, dancer, and hairdresser. She married Frank Stallone Sr. in 1945, gave birth to Sylvester in 1946, and Frank Jr. in 1950. She gave birth to Diatalo in 1964 with her second husband, Anthony Felitti. Diatalo died in 2012. On her website, Stallone wrote that she had advised kings, prime ministers, politicians, movie stars, gamblers, generals, gangsters, cops, and priests during her astrology career. Stallone coined the term and practice of rumpology, which she described as similar to palm reading, but of one's rear end. She also, I think there's a couple of cracks in that story, Tim. Thank you, everybody.
Might be, yeah.
She also had her own cosmetics line of facial masks. She appeared on a handful of talk shows, including The Howard Stern Show, Oprah, Larry King Live, The Late Show with David Letterman, and The Graham Norton Show. Most recently, Stallone was on the British reality show Celebrity Big Brother in 2005 as a surprise guest. Her former daughter-in-law and Sylvester's ex-wife, Brigitte Nielsen, they were on the season as well. Stallone was voted out of the house after just 4 days. She is survived by her husband, Stephen Levine, sons Sylvester and Frank, and grandchildren. I don't want to get into their names because some of them I can't even pronounce, but it is a sad loss to the astrology community. An amazing woman. I actually reached out to her and exchanged emails back when we started, and she just wasn't interested in doing radio, but she wished us well at the time. At that point, she's Sylvester Stallone's mom, was on every major Oprah, Dr. Phil, not Dr. Phil, but everybody of the era, and just coming on to do a little paranormal show for her at that time just wasn't in the cards. But she was very kind and very sweet and wished us well. So that's all that matters to me. It was very nice to hear from her.
When there was a clip, they paid tribute to her on the Stern Show this past week, and there's a clip where when she was reading their rumps, so to speak, in order to do it, they all basically sat on the copier. And Fred actually broke the copier because he didn't know you were supposed to hold yourself above the glass. He sat on the glass and broke it. not only broke it, but he shattered it, and he got some in his buttocks. Yes. So he ended up very bloody and
psychic shrapnel.
Yeah, psychic shrapnel. Yeah, but fascinatingly enough, she got it right at the time. It was quite a few years ago that Howard was going to have a third child, but got it wrong as to the sex of the child. She said he was going to have a son. He ended up having a daughter.
Yeah, but in this current day and age, Tim, things could still change on that. You never know.
But by reading his starfish, Dave managed to figure out that he was going to have another child.
Doesn't that make you wonder
how
she came up with that to begin with?
Yeah, I'm impressed that she managed to pull that out of his ass. I'm just saying.
Hi-oh! Yeah. Yep. All right. Another strange story comes by way of the Daily News, Tim.
Okay.
And this crosses our borders again into supernatural real crime stories. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
The U.S. is set to put to death a former soldier. Why, you may ask?
Why?
Because he murdered a Georgia nurse because of his obsession with witchcraft and made him believe she had hexed him.
Really?
He's the first of 2 federal death row inmates set to die this week as federal executions continue after a 17-year hiatus. United States carried out first federal execution in 17 years. That's right. William Emmett LaCroix, age 50, is scheduled for execution Tuesday. He would be the 6th federal inmate executed by lethal injection this year at the U.S. prison in Terre Haute, Indiana. Christopher Villalba, the first African-American on federal death row to be executed this year, is scheduled to be given a lethal injection on Thursday, the Associated Press reported. Very strange stories. In 2001, though, LaCroix broke into the residence of Joanne Lee Teisler, age 30, in rural Georgia, waited for her to come home and slashed her throat and stabbed her after binding and assaulting her. He was arrested driving Teisler's truck 2 days later. Teisler lived near one of the relatives, and LaCroix would wave to her as he drove by. He later told investigators he'd come to believe she might have been his old babysitter, who he called Tinkerbell, who he believed had molested him as a child. He then realized after killing Teisler that was not true. Wah, wah. Yikes.
Jeez.
Yeah, very, very weird crimes this week. And boy, in 2020, Tim, nobody's getting a break, not even Jesus Christ himself.
Somehow I can believe that.
We're going to Russia for our next story, Tim, where Russian authorities mounted a special operation to arrest a former traffic police officer. Follow the provenance of this story, Tim.
Okay.
They arrested a former traffic police officer who claims to be the reincarnation of Jesus. He has run a cult based in the depths of Siberia for the past 3 decades. Helicopters and armed officers stormed communities run by Sergei Torop, known to his followers as Vizarian, and arrested him and 2 of his aides. Russia's investigative committee said it would charge him with organizing an illegal religious organization, alleging that the cult itself extorted money from followers and subjected them to emotional abuse. Torop, 59, with long gray hair and a beard, was led by masked troops to a helicopter. The operation involved agents from Russia's FSB security service, as well as police and other agencies. Vadim Redkin, Tim. Vadim Redkin, a former drummer in a Soviet-era boy band who was known as Visionaire's right-hand man. Of course, a former traffic cop's right-hand man would be a former drummer in a boy band.
Yep.
He was also arrested along with another aide, Vladimir Verednikov. Now, Torop, who lost his job, Tim, as a traffic officer back in 1989, claimed he experienced an awakening as the Soviet regime began to collapse. In 1991, he founded a movement now known as the Church of the Last Testament. Several thousand followers live in a series of remote hamlets in the Krasnoyarsk region in Siberia. converts to the cult have included professionals from across Russia, as well as pilgrims from abroad. I am not God, and it is a mistake to see Jesus as God, but I am the living word of God the Father. Everything that God wants to say, he says through me. That's what Vizarian told The Guardian back in 2002. Amazing that you got that audio, Tim.
Well, I check all my sources before we hit the air, Dave. Yeah.
Russian media reported that in the original ideology of the cult, Vizarian claimed Jesus was watching over people from an orbit close to Earth, and the Virgin Mary was running Russia. But later he declared himself to be Jesus. His commune, I guess, is not his commune, Tim. His commune mixes a selection of rites drawn from the Orthodox Christianity with environmental edicts and a series of other rules. Veganism is enforced, and monetary exchange is banned inside the commune. Followers wear austere clothing and count years starting from 1961, the year of Vizhnar's birth.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Vizharian's birth. While Christmas has been replaced by a feast day on the 14th of January, which happens to be his birthday.
Oh, well, convenient.
I'd like to start a feast day on my birthday, November 22nd, that is not Thanksgiving, Tim. I would like all of our followers to join us and force McDonald's to serve McRibs, never-ending McRibs.
Okay, now...
Hostess to supply Twinkies. And I want McDonald's to bring back their orange drink. Do you remember the orange drink?
Oh, yes, I love that orange drink.
There's something magical about that orange drink. I mean, I'm sure it's all sugary and would kill us.
Yeah.
But what a way to go.
Well, here's the issue, though. Okay, I want you to think about this first, my friend. November 22nd is dangerously close to Thanksgiving.
Right? Sometimes it lands on Thanksgiving.
It does. So you've got the, we'll call it the Schrader stuff for the fest. And the Schrader
How
stuff.
about the Supper of Saint Schrader?
Wow.
Huh?
Wow. You just went right for grandiose on that deal.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I
would have gone with the Davidians, but it's already been used.
You're just automatically going for canonization. You haven't even kicked the bucket yet.
I don't need to. When you are the leader of the army of darkness, Tim, I've already risen to certain levels of greatness that can never be unachieved or unattained.
Unachieved.
Yeah. And my graspingly of the English languages, Tim, is astounding.
Is almost leader-like.
Astounding.
Yeah, I see. Okay. So you just skipped canonization altogether and gone straight for sainthood.
It just seems like a lot of time and effort put into that. How about we just Saint Schrader, the Supper of Saint Schrader? Saying it just sounds nice because, again, as this article wraps up, it's not clear what's going to happen to the disciples of this Russian Jesus, Tim. So why not just become a follower of Saint Schrader? Move on over. Yeah. And it's not clear why authorities decided to move on him now. The official Russian Orthodox Church has long condemned the group, but officials have largely left the devotees alone. Some Russian media outlets reported that the community had become involved in a dispute with local business interests, and that may be what has facilitated the eventual downfall of the situation there, Tim.
Mother Teresa had to move heaven and earth, and you're just like, oh, yeah, Saint Schrader, don't worry about it.
How about she moved heaven and earth, but I've moved 12 times in adulthood. That's got to be worthy of some kind of canonization anyway, right?
Sure.
Here's an email to us, Tim, from a listener.
Okay.
Hi, Dave and Tim.
Hi.
Hope you and your families and extended families are all well. I know you hate bad punctuation, but I'm a scientist, so I'll try. And he already fails just in this part of the sentence, but I'm a scientist, so I'll try. And to the English language stuff.
You got it.
Ian, much like my need to just skip canonization and go straight to sainthood, you're a scientist who needs language. I like that.
You got symbols.
Yep.
Yeah.
He goes, firstly, a thank you. Why? He asks, for all you give to people. See, Tim, like a saint, I give. And things I never ask for return. It's a heartfelt thank you to you and Tim, and I'm sure it's from all of us.
Uh-huh.
Does he mean all of the listeners or all of the voices in his head, though? That's the part that unnerves me.
Wow, he is being genuine right now, and you are being very unsaintly.
No, that's not. I'm just asking. It's a clarification statement, Tim. That's what a good leader and a saint would do.
Uh-huh.
All right. Paragraph, new topic, he says. I've been thinking and discussing the seeing things out of the corner of your eye phenomena and have a few ideas. As an optometrist, we do a lot of work on anatomical structure of the eye, but also the processing involved. We have receptive fields. You may have heard this or not. If you get confused, I'm available for a chat. A receptive field is an area projected in space in which a stimulus will cause a response. Basically, imagine a funnel. In the center of your vision, the funnel is very narrow. We have one receptor cell that links to a neuron that sends a signal to the brain, hence very selective and very good vision. In the periphery of our vision, we have many receptors that will link to one neuron, hence very sensitive but no definition. Our peripheral vision is designed for movement detection. The center is then for analysis. Imagine Neanderthal man. We want to see prey in our periphery, be alerted to it, and focus on it. I did research on this, and as we get older, our levels drop centrally, but our peripheral vision still works quite well. Hence, an energy or spirit form of low energy may have enough energy to stimulate the 1 in 1,000 receptors peripheral to notice it. But on fixating on it, it may not have enough energy to stimulate our central vision. Thus, it disappears. I like that he's challenging us to think, Tim.
I like that, yeah.
This leads to the damage of central vision leading to Charles Bonnet syndrome. Our brain is designed to fill in gaps. A glaucoma patient with visual damage may not notice it as the other eye fills in and the brain does also. Our brain will always strive to supply us with a stimulus. It has been known for totally blind people to see a light and look towards it. It's called blind sight, and we are still unsure how it works. I've tested several patients with Charles Bonnet and had the poop scared out of me, even though I know it's neurological and not necessarily supernatural. I'm going to stop now as I'm not sure how much more I can bore you. Take care, stay safe, and text. Message if you want more info. Yours despicably, Ian.
Oh, you weren't boring us at all, Ian. I was intrigued.
I am fascinated. Charles Bonnet syndrome. We did a news story for those of you new or those of you that might have missed it, talking about this Charles Bonnet syndrome where people have this syndrome and they will see specters and other strange anomalous sights, animals, monsters. They'll actually even communicate with them. And it just becomes part of their world, but it's not there. They claim it's neurological. I want to know how science can just dismiss it so summarily. If these things are communicating in an intelligent way, I understand the brain fills in some of these voids, Tim. Well, we got to get somebody on it's really good at Charles Bonnet syndrome and can talk to us about this.
They probably summarily dismiss it, much like you would summarily dismiss neuropathy, misfire of a nerve or misfire of a nerve misfires, and through science you can say, well, here's a pill, stop misfiring the nerve. If a series of nerves shuts down and no longer functions correctly, you can say, well, it's faulty. We have to dismiss whatever it's doing because it doesn't work properly anymore. We can't spend the time trying to figure out why it's doing what it's doing because we can't say that it's functioning anymore. It's functioning correctly. It's not. To say that
like if they're seeing people though, and they're able to communicate, just because we don't believe that they're actually seeing people, what if those people, I wonder if anybody scientifically has had
but follow me here.
Charles Bonnet syndrome candidates actually ask questions.
Follow me here because I'm drawing the parallel. I feel knives stabbing into my feet, but they're not. Just because you see people in front of you doesn't mean that they're there in front of you. I feel knives stabbing into my feet 20 or 30 times a day, but nobody's physically coming up and stabbing me in the feet. Just because a blind person sees people in front of them or ghostly images in front of them doesn't mean that they're there. It just could be a matter of nerves and neurons.
But the difference
firing.
is you're feeling a sensation. They're seeing and hearing or communicating, so they could actually ask questions of this being to see if they get answers that then we could correlate with, oh, this person claims to be Bobby Smith, former NHL player from the Minnesota North Stars. He did this, did that, so if they're able to get information that can be corroborated later, in investigation wise, I understand you're drawing the line, but one is a visual, and in some cases they're actually able to communicate with these beings. If the beings can then give them some kind of affirmation to who they are, that's something you can test, as opposed to there's something stabbing your feet, which we know is a neurological issue.
But again, you're asking a doctor or someone who, again, is treating this syndrome. They're assuming from a medical standpoint, you're wanting me to treat a misfiring neuron,
right?
And investigate it.
I'm just wondering
further.
if anybody has ever done, if they've ever pushed it. Have they ever had these people ask those questions, try to get some information, see if they're able to corroborate anything that they're able to say? Because here's an interesting aspect, and I don't know how true this is, but I've heard many people bandy this about, that you don't dream about anybody that you haven't ever physically seen. Your brain cannot create faces. It only recalls. So if you're seeing somebody, is it your brain pulling somebody that you've maybe seen in a crowd before, or are you seeing somebody totally new? I don't know. Weird stuff. Fascinating.
You've never dreamed about people you've never seen before?
Well,
I do
right.
quite frequently.
Right. But you're saying you've never seen them before. You may have seen them at the grocery store. They're not somebody that you would recognize, but according to what has been stated, you can't dream about anybody that you haven't actually seen before. Your brain references it. So when you see people you don't recognize in your dreams, it's because your brain is pulling those pieces from people that you've seen at the ball game, at the grocery store, at the the swimming hole, Tim, where you like to hang out. So it just kind of, that pattern is already in your brain, and it's just projecting it back out into dreams. That's the claim. But again, I don't know how you can define that. How do you know that the brain can't assemble? I mean, there's 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and 2 ears. The face is a very basic structure, although it's interesting how vastly different they all are. I don't know. Weird stuff. I'd just love to get more information and a better understanding, and ask if anybody has pushed the boundaries. And if we have any listeners that have Charles Bonnet syndrome, and I believe that there are a few that have already called or written into us, have you communicated? Have you tried then to see if you can corroborate who this person might be or might have been? And if you have, email me, dave@darknessradio.com. Inquiring minds want to know. All right, we have another quick little email here, Tim. They're looking for some insight. Are you ready to give some insight?
All right.
Dave, my name is Clay W. I don't want to give his full name. I just saw your appearance in an episode of Haunted Hospitals. Thanks for sharing your story. My family and I have many paranormal experiences of our own, but that's not why I'm contacting you guys. I'm curious, can you offer any insight into the afterlife? E.g., religion, God, etc. Given your line of work and experiences, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thanks, Clay. I've had a couple of near-death moments in my life, but I have no recollection of what happened to me. So I can't tell you for certain that I have witnessed something. However, I have seen ghosts or phantoms, spirits, wraiths, whatever you want to call them. I have seen anomalous beings and things that I cannot explain. I would like to believe that we do survive the physical form. Even after all I've done, I cannot definitively say we do. It's still a mystery to me. I know what I've experienced. I know what I've seen. I've seen what I believe to be intelligent and residual hauntings, but are these projections of something that I've created or others have created and is playing out like a movie? Or is it a legitimate, intelligent haunting? I can't definitively say what it is that we're dealing with. As far as God, I have a belief in God, and I am unabashedly, I've talked about being a Christian on the show our whole existence. We do a lot with prayer and healing requests for listeners, and Tim and I have seen miracles. We've seen amazing things happen in our own lives and in those of others. And we've seen others that have asked for prayers where nothing's happened. I can't understand what takes place or how it takes place. So I really have no in-depth insight into this. It comes, I guess, from you. What are your takes on things like this, Tim?
Well, let me take a big deep breath before I get into this. I think it's healthy, even though you see things and even though you experience things. I think it's always healthy to have a bit of skepticism. It is. It's part of the human nature to have, and believe me, this is skepticism, not cynicism. But yeah, I've had dream visitations. I've even been just a few seconds away from kicking the bucket, and I never saw white light, and I've been asked, did that scare me? But then I'm not going to choose to say why or how it was verified to me why I did not see a white light. And I have my personal reasons as to why I won't tell you about the verification source. But let's just say this: when you're not ready to go, you will not. When you're not even close to being ready to go, or you don't need a verification as to why you were ready to go, you won't see that white light when you have that brush with death. I truly do believe that there is something on the other side. I've had more than my share of signs. I've had more than my share of odd things happen in this life. I've had more than my share of things hit me between the eyes. And that's not woo-woo. That's not, forgive the term of airy-fairy. I'm not that type of person. I won't go around and, throw rose petals at your feet and convince you to do all kinds of weird stuff to believe in that sort of stuff. I'm a very grounded, down-to-earth type of person.
With that said, you will throw roses at people's feet for $50 a minute, though, I believe.
No.
No? Really?
No.
For $50 a minute?
No.
I will. Dave@darknessradio.com. I'll take your money and throw roses at your feet.
But there is something there. What it is up for question and debate, and that's where the skepticism comes in. That's what I believe.
Very cool. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got more to share. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio on a supernatural news and ParaShare. This is Darkness Radio. All right. Thank you again for staying with us here. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. Darkness on the Edge of Town paranormal radio show. That's a mouthful. Now you know why we refer to it as Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. That guy right there, co-host and producer Tim Dennis. We've got strange and supernatural news to share. This next piece, Tim, I'm going to actually include a link to this video.
Okay.
In today's program. So people look at the description of today's program. You'll see a link to this. I'd like you to weigh in. There's an interesting piece of footage that is circulating, a strange piece of home security camera footage circulating online that appears to show a pair of bipedal humanoid creatures lurking in a driveway of a home in Texas. Now, the curious video was reportedly filmed outside of a residence in Dallas late last month. It was posted to Reddit by a very bewildered homeowner. They were hoping somebody could identify these strange little oddities. Now, in the footage, you see these diminutive visitors can be seen kind of scurrying around on 2 feet at the end of a driveway before disappearing behind a car. Now, are you looking at that footage, Tim?
Yep.
Okay. It's interesting to me. And when I first saw it, I'm looking at it going, what the hell am I looking at? Now, some observers online have suggested that the anomalous forms could be a small humanoid creature that exists in folklore and cultures around the world, known as a Cheneque in Mexico or the Tukaloshi in Zimbabwe, also known as a Pukwudgie among Native American tribes. These are mysterious dwarf-like beings that exist in a realm somewhere between cryptozoology and the spirit realm. And many legends are kind of surrounding these characters as being sinister little entities. Now, taking a look at that footage, I got to tell you, I couldn't make heads nor tails of it. Somebody just sent me an answer, but I'd like to see what your thoughts are on, Tim. Not a definitive answer, it's just something they think. But what is that weird looking to you?
A little bit. I'm trying to zoom in on it. It's not real high resolution. So...
Right. Well, and you see these two little figures walking around. And then one of my friends just chimed in and said, could it be crows? Do those look like crows to you?
Not really. But I mean,
But again, it's low light, low resolution. That could be it.
Right.
But something about it looks less.
It does have that. They do kind of have that little, side to side jittery type of walk.
For any crows that were offended by that comment, you may peck out your email to tim@darknessradio.com.
Just don't peck out my eyes. The thing is they're a little, I mean, they'd have to be pretty big crows.
Well, there are some big crows around, man. We had one that landed on our deck. I thought it was an eagle. It was like a crow raven. It was huge.
And they move a little too smooth for being crows.
I don't know. It is weird, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huh. So I will include a link to that video on today's program. Take a look at it. Let me know what you think, folks. Now, in our next story, a group of paranormal investigators claimed of what they believe is the spirit of one of history's lost monarchs, Tim.
Really?
Yeah. How about that? A lost monarch. I didn't know we had any. The team at Retford Ghost Hunters have released images showing what they say is one of their members coming face to face with the apparition of the White Lady of Rufford, who, according to legend, is believed to be the spirit of ill-fated Arbella Stewart. The renowned specter is said to wander the halls of the historic Rufford Abbey in Sherwood Forest, knots following her untimely death in the 17th century, rather. The noblewoman was the great-great-granddaughter of Henry VII and Mary, Queen of Scots' niece. It is said she was destined to take place as queen after Elizabeth I, but she found herself at the center of a political wrangling which saw her banished to the Tower of London. Instead of taking the throne, she died of starvation while imprisoned in 1615. The investigators now believe the ghostly figure shown in the photos is the spirit of the lost queen. They said at the time they were unaware of the history of the abbey and the links to the White Lady of Rutherford. This image is pretty remarkable. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it definitely looks like a woman veiled in white. Again, could it be pareidolia? Could it be our eyes making sense of a reflective surface and us mistaken? I'm not sure. The leader of the group, Rachel Parsons, said, I couldn't believe it when I looked up the history of the place the next day. The first thing that came up was the White Lady of Rufford. She's been spotted there quite a few times by all accounts. It was about 11 p.m. inside the ruins when we all heard a woman's cough, so I ran toward the direction of it with my flashlight. I then sensed something on the spot where I was, and I said to the others, I feel like she's standing right in front of me. At that point, I told our viewers watching the live stream on Facebook to get some screenshotting because I knew she was there. It was only when we got home and a viewer sent the screen grab that I discovered how close I was to her. People have said it looks like a horror movie poster, but I was just delighted to get such compelling evidence of what could be the famous White Lady of Rufford. Pretty great. Again, it's a shame that it's so pixelated. But we're so much want to see faces in things that it could just be that. I don't know.
On a different side note, speaking of royalty and stuff like that, do you remember quite a few weeks back we had a story about relatives of Robert the Bruce that were selling that castle?
Yes.
It turns out they were relatives of mine.
Really?
Yeah, I was.
So do you get a piece of the action?
Yeah, I was talking to my aunt about it. We were just kind of, chewing the fat back and forth, and she said, "Did you see that? Or did you guys report on a story about relatives of Robert the Bruce that were selling a castle?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do you know they were relatives, or they are relatives of ours?" I said, "I had no idea." She goes, "Yeah," and I said, "Do we have a claim on that castle?" And she goes, "I don't think we can afford that castle." I'm like, "Yeah, I think you're right."
Wow.
Yeah. It's just interesting.
Very cool.
Kind of an interesting note. So.
Very cool. Look at you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I'm hanging with royalty.
No, I don't know that we're royalty, but there's just it's some sort of a fact that everybody is related to everybody by a certain splice of DNA. So,
yeah,
you're not too far away from being related to somebody by some amount of DNA. So there you go.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see at darknessradio.com. Go check it out, folks. I'm going to see if I can put up a news tab again. We used to do this. It just got kind of tedious to include all these news links. And the problem is that I was afraid by putting some of these news links up, I just don't want people getting viruses from the news links.
Yeah.
But people are always begging me, I want to see the story. I want to see these pictures. And I understand your frustration. I mean, first of all, we read the story to you. So you could look up, Ghost of Rufford or whatever. But most people don't want to do that. They want us to put it somewhere. So I think I'm going to see if Darkness Winnie will put together a tab on darknessradio.com for us. And I'll just give her the news links and she can put up the date and then put up the 6 to 14 news links that we talk about each week, and people can go in and examine it for themselves.
Yeah,
how about that?
Not a bad idea.
So they can hear it reported here. Then they can go check out the news stories, see the pictures, the videos. And maybe I'll just include just the ones that have compelling evidence, like photographs, video, audio, something like that.
Yeah.
Should we do that? Maybe not every story, just the ones with the stuff you want to see.
Yeah, just the ones with the compelling pictures, because nobody wants to hear about the soap stars that are on Big Brother.
Right. You don't need to see the picture of the guy dressed like Jesus getting arrested.
Right.
Yeah. And if you do, just look up Russian Jesus getting arrested. I think that'll do it for you. All right. It's the spooky season, Tim. I don't know if you know that. Fall has fallen.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful sunny day the other day. I come out yesterday. The trees are all brown and there's a gajillion leaves on the ground. I don't know how it happened, but we went from summer to fall in the equivalent of a night.
Yep.
Well, there are a few places in America spookier than the hallowed grounds of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. The 3-day Battle of Gettysburg marked the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, with over 40,000 casualties, Tim, that took place on both the Union and Confederate side. Now, 150 years later, the battlefield and surrounding area remains a hotbed of paranormal activity. Have you seen this new footage that's circulating everywhere, Tim?
I have not, no.
All right, I'm going to send you this link so you can take a look at it whilst I finish the story, and then you and I can chat a little bit about it. This article says, I grew up, not me, but the author of this article, who is Brandon Wennard, thank you so much. I grew up just down the road from Gettysburg, about 20 miles on the other side of the mountains. Many people in the area, including myself, believe Gettysburg is haunted. We visited the battlefield semi-annually for field trips, and I heard it all growing up from both ghost hunters and Civil War historians, tourists spotting soldiers in full Civil War uniforms at Devil's Den and Little Round Top before vanishing in midair. 1800s farmhouses that served as hospitals after the battle, where apparitions slam doors or bang on pianos in the middle of the night. Stories from college students about the ladies in white that roam the campuses of Gettysburg College, where its Penn Hall served as particularly bloody hospital during the war. And as the legend goes, it's the ghost of a widow who committed suicide after losing her lover in the war. So that's just one of the strange stories. Now, that leads us to a recent ghost sighting in Gettysburg. The Gettysburg ghost video was captured by New Jersey resident Greg Yilling, who was visiting the historical battleground with his family on September 2nd of this year, September 2nd, 2020. Two ghosts appear to run past the camera, prompting him to come into an immediate stop. He shows the video, and it kind of freaks out his entire family. He says, "We just went there as tourists to learn about the history of the Civil War and see old battleground, where the Gettysburg Address was given and all that stuff. We were driving along one night, and we started hearing noises. I heard things to the left, and my uncle heard things to the right. And there was a fog, but the fog was weird. It was only in one patch, not dispersed. Then we saw these shapes moving in the darkness. They were the size of humans. One of them ran right through the cannon. It was weird. It was scary. It was crazy. My uncle got so scared he rolled up the window. We went back and watched the videos over and over again, and then we blew them up on the big screen to get a closer look. That made us even more freaked out. It's very exciting, but I also got this strange, ominous feeling like something was telling me to go back there," Ewing said, adding, "I couldn't go to sleep, but I was creeped out, so I didn't go." Some people just aren't buying it. According to the New Jersey Paranormal Research Organization in particular, is convinced it's water droplets on the windshield of the car, not a paranormal encounter. Do those look like water droplets to you, Tim?
No, although when I have seen this video before. The first time I saw the video, something was weird about it.
Well, now, is it this video or the one that came out like 8 years ago that's in the exact same place?
No.
Where you see the guy walking up slowly.
It's this video. It's this video.
Okay.
And it's the, when you watch this video, it's the spirit that comes from the right-hand side of the screen and kind of walks to the right center. And it's something about the way it moves. It doesn't, and I know we can't predict the actions of a spirit. Let's get that straight right away. But it's just something about it has a very cartoony feel. And I don't know. It doesn't seem right. But I wouldn't say no. Water droplets is not. I wouldn't say it's not a water droplet. No.
No, it definitely looks like figures.
Yeah, it does look like a figure.
And it's going sideways,
right?
Not down,
right? That's why I say it looks very cartoonish. It doesn't look. It doesn't look like anything you'd see. Like if you were to see something, it almost looks. I don't want to use the word CG, but it does look very.
It looks like it could have been shopped in a way.
Yes, shopped. That's a good word. It looks shopped. Yeah.
It does and it doesn't to me. Again, what would it look like if you legitimately saw that?
Right. And
the fact that other people caught footage at that same spot, it's pretty compelling. I don't know.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm gonna include that one. Like I said, I'll have my wife pop that up on darknessradio.com. There'll be a tab that'll say news. And again, I'm only going to include the ones that have video or a photograph or audio, something that you physically need to see for yourself that we're referencing on the show. Because I love these people, Tim. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I love our listeners.
Well, I know, St. Schrader. I hadn't heard that.
It's true. Hey, our next story is not as exactly as it seems, Tim. Now, there's no photograph with this, so I won't be including this one, but they do reference a photograph.
Okay.
Terrifying footage appears to capture the face of a ghostly child peering out of a window of a haunted house. The footage was captured by a mom out on a hike who sent a video of a beautiful old abandoned mansion to her daughter with a sweet running commentary. But on closer inspection, her daughter discovered an eerie face in one of the windows. Her name is TikTok user Reba Beba, Rebabeba.
Well, that's close.
Also known as Rebecca. She shared the haunting video on her account where it quickly went viral. My mom sent me this video of a mansion she found on a hike, and I just noticed a face in the window. WTFFFF. #haunted, she captioned her post. Her mom's innocent running commentary can be heard as she scans the ivy-covered stone facade and charming slanted roof. Look what I found. This is in Carmel. Someone told me it's the Murphy house. I don't know who the Murphys were, but I don't think they've lived here for quite a while because it looks pretty deserted, she began. She then pans over the front of the house, where in the top left-hand corner, the face of what appears to be a child is staring back. Seemingly oblivious of what she's filming, Rebecca's mom continues, "It must have been gorgeous in its day. I can absolutely imagine walking around here in fancy dress or something. It's simply amazing, just beautiful." Now, the post has had 250,000 likes, 4,752 comments at the time of this article being written. People were freaking out. "Oh my God, that's a child. Why did I have to see this before bed?" someone wrote. "All my serotonin just left my body," quipped another. Now, there's also a conspiracy theory going around. George Flanders' mansion in Carmel, California. I don't know. I was doing a British accent, Tim.
I don't know. Well, maybe they settled there.
Yeah, they kept referring to her as a mum. So I figured maybe it was in England. But Carmel, California. George Flanders' mansion. Turns out that the owners had an 11-year-old son who died. That's according to one poster. Someone called Emily claimed she knew the house and that it was deserted and down a long, desolate driveway. But she claims that it's a doll's head that's kept in the windows to keep tourists away. And it seems that Emily was right, as in follow-up video, Rebecca returned to the house where she discovered the true nature of the eerie video. She said, "So I really hope no one did call the police because, as you can see, it is just a mannequin head." The article originally appeared on KidSpot and had been republished with permission. In other paranormal news, the woman captured footage of a seemingly haunted doll moving its legs of its own accord. And this pregnant woman was left terrified after spotting a shadowy figure in the background of her video, but they don't include links to either one of those stories. So, that's all we got to share on that, Tim. Yeah. But see, sometimes a little bit more investigation. That's why I'm going to say it again, Tim. I love our listeners, and I'm so happy to answer your questions or look at your photographs. But when you send me a close-up photograph of some kind of anomalous blob or marking and ask me if it's paranormal, I can't tell you. I don't know enough about the situation, who you were with, who was there, what kind of light sources. I don't know. It's literally like giving me a 2,000-piece puzzle that's all turned upside down. No picture of what the puzzle should look like, and then picking up one piece randomly, turning it over and telling me what's in this picture. I don't know. Yes, I can see something that looks bizarre, but I also understand that that little anomaly in that could turn out that when you flip over the rest of the puzzle, it's really the folds in Mickey Mouse's pants that make it look like a face. And the button was an eye, but it turns out that's not it. So I kind of need the whole thing. And even when you give me your whole perception of it, unless I'm there and can see in a 360-degree angle of what was behind it, to the side of it, what light sources were there, I can't really weigh in. And something you should know, sometimes when you take photographs in a dark place and your flash pops, it may reveal something that's like I want to say like a water stain on a wall that you might not notice with the naked eye, but the light glints off it and it creates what looks like a face on the wall. So please don't get upset with me when I look at your pictures and I'm not real excited about them. There are some I'm fascinated about and I'll ask questions. There are some that I just don't respond to because I just, don't have the time of day all the time to respond to every piece of evidence that I can't give you an answer to. But if you can usually give me a paragraph or two about where it was, what time of day it was, who was there with you when this photograph was taken, are there windows above, behind, or to the sides, what light sources, that could give me at least some indication to get a better idea. But it is very hard for us to weigh in on a single photograph.
Very true.
Yeah. Hello, Tim and Dave. That's how this email starts.
Hi.
Tim and Dave. Anyway, thank you both so much for your wonderful program. I really appreciate all the work that you put into producing a quality podcast. I've attached a story for your perusal. I'd really appreciate it if you did not give out my name or any of my details, as people think I'm goofy enough as it is without other proof needed. This is a particular dream experience that has been with me for 50 years, but it's only because of being home during COVID-19 restrictions that I've had time to write down my stories. I've had several strange experiences, but this one attached is the most profound, life-changing one and the most disturbing. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd be interested in your thoughts. Kindest regards, a fan. Okay, a fan. That was a great sizzle. That was a great opening to get me excited, but there was no story attached.
What?
Yeah, no story attached.
No?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry. Send it over to us. That's all I can ask. Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Here's a weird story, Tim.
Okay.
You know, I understand we all have the need to grieve, Tim.
Okay.
We all have that need and want to say goodbye, to get some closure.
Sure.
And that's really why we have funerals and wakes, right? It's that last moment to see our loved one, to pay our respects. It's definitely more for you than it is for them at that point. Well, an enterprising Japanese artist is catering to the heartsick by holding memorial services for sex dolls that have outlived their use, Tim. Many sex dolls are loved as though they're members of a family, according to Lai Arata, the 30-something founder of Love Doll Funeral Services in Osaka.
I don't love any of my family like that, my friend.
Yeah. For roughly, how much do you think it costs, Tim, so that you can have your synthetic sweetheart placed in a casket, swaddled in burial attire, and adorned with garlands? How much do you think that she charges for this?
Depends on...
Oh, wait. Let me throw in a little bit more just to entice you, Tim.
Okay.
Presiding over the mannequin memorials is a transgender porn actress turned Buddhist monk, Lei Kato, who Arata describes as the foremost authority on sex dolls and their owners. Oh. How much do you think you'd pay now, Tim?
Oh, Dave, well, now I think we're putting in about $5,000-6,000 here.
Okay. How about if I say no one offers an appropriate ceremony better than her, according to Arata? How much do you think that'd be worth?
$8,000, Dave. We're going to $8,000 now.
How about if I mention that, in fact, the funeral, complete with candles, undertakers, and even mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, other mourning sex dolls, is so authentic that passersby have called the police after mistaking the dolls for cadavers themselves. How much do you think you'd pay for that, Tim?
Let's go $10,000, Dave. We're going $10,000.
Well, naturally, some are going to balk at the idea of interring inanimate objects. However, the unconventional visionary started Love Doll Funeral because she felt there was a real need, Tim. Many owners do not want them to be just shredded as garbage, said Arata, adding that many action figure trustees fear being shamed for discarding dolls in the dumpster, where they could be discovered. So you're also getting protection, Tim. How much do you think that's worth on top of this?
I think it's worth $1,295, but if you're asking how much they're charging, I think $12,000, Dave. They're going $12,000 for this deal.
$800. That's all they're asking.
Oh, that's it? $800?
Yep.
Well, sign me up.
Yeah. Now, along with throwing burials for dummies, the porn fantasy purveyor also dresses people as corpses for photo shoots, while men can cosplay as female corpses for pretend funerals. Because art.
Yeah, well, yeah.
One 39-year-old single nurse named Ai Kaneko was even able to realize her dream of becoming a sex doll herself. Speaking about her makeover, the doll pullganger, said she wanted to be loved and cherished like sex dolls are. Kaneko's pastime might sound creepy, but playing dead literally saved her life. Kaneko said her experience at Love Doll Funeral made her forget the suicidal thoughts she suffered for 15 years after discovering the body of her boyfriend who had hanged himself. That took a dark turn quick.
Jeez, yeah.
Arata summed up her patrons as great human beings with very low self-esteem. Their desire to change or be accepted and loved is so strong. And this is the only place for many of them, she said. I want to be there for that. So you got to give her that that's beautiful. Her concepts of what she's doing. It's just weird. And this, I'm going to include this story, Tim, because you got to see the pictures of these sex doll ceremonies. I just want to know what you do to a sex doll that blows it out so bad that you have to bury it because you don't want it to be seen or known about ever again.
You're nibbling on a bit and all of a sudden you blow a hole in her and the Tire Patch Kit didn't work.
Does she fly around the room backwards?
I think so. And
we can thank our buddy Chris Doc Ketchmark, for sending in that story.
And when the Tire Patch Kit doesn't work, Dave, eventually you gotta, you can't throw the old sex doll into the recycling bin because then your garbage man looks at you funny for the rest of your days there at the old residence.
I could see that.
So you got to find a different way to get rid of it.
I wonder how many times people have discarded their sex dolls.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's gone by seeing what looks like an anatomical body part hanging out and have reported it.
There's nothing more embarrassing than having it end up back on the curb next to the recycling bin with a note attached saying, "We don't take these in the recycling. Please dispose of in a different way."
Yeah. How do you do that? But then again, you got, do you want to be the guy wrapping it in the carpet and dragging it down the stairs? I don't know. Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hey, why not?
Yeah, it takes all kinds to make the world go round,
I mean, I've got an idea, not for sex dolls. Well, I've got lots of ideas for those, but I've got an idea of my own business that I'd like to get started, and I'm trying to get financing for it. And I'm serious about it.
Okay.
It's a new way to do funerals and making it fun. Oh, and I know that sounds weird. I'll talk to you about it off air.
Okay, putting the fun
back in. I
back
mentioned
in
it on the show 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to talk about it again because, we're at the point where somebody might steal it.
You're going to think this is odd, but I had a friend of mine who I worked with at way back when at Comcast, back when they put the con and criminal in Comcast. My own editorial there. He was a comedian, and he died relatively young, and actually that was the most fun I'd ever had at a funeral. A comedian's funeral.
That's cool. Yeah, my idea is different. Like I said, I'll talk to you about it off air. Okay. I think we should look into it because I think there's a definite need. I'm being 100% serious. I know I joke around a lot on the show, but I believe that what I've got is needed. And I got what you need, Tim. That's all I'm going to say.
Understandable. I mean, most people, well, let's face it, most people don't have the sense of humor to pull it off. But and some people might think it's inappropriate, but when you have somebody who, to exude their personality into a funeral, I think is probably the best thing you could do. If somebody had a talent, if they were musically talented, if they were, if they were funny, if they were energetic, if you could find a way to infuse their personality into a funeral, I think it would be more appropriate than just a standard dirge.
It's going to be even better.
Really?
Than that. Can you believe that? I would say that, Tim. Even better than that.
All right.
Yeah. I'm just putting it out there. Just saying. Just dangling the carrot, Tim.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So just something to consider. We'll talk. Like I said, we'll talk about it off air. I'm curious what your thoughts would be. Maybe I'm completely nuts, but it's been marinating in my brain for probably a decade.
Okay.
And I because you know me, I hate funerals. I hate death. I hate that whole thing.
Yeah.
I'll explain it to you later. I got to get it done. I got to find a way to do it. I think I should do it on a reality TV show.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think people would get a kick out of it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Dear Dave and Tim, finally, the way it's supposed to be written. I love listening to you guys at night as I fall asleep. I have trouble often sleeping, and for some reason, Dave's voice can put me out in about 15 minutes.
I don't
Dave,
know that
make
that's
house
good.
calls?
Is that good? I mean, if we want people to listen to the show, is that good that people are falling asleep 15 minutes in?
Maybe I should read the story this way.
Okay.
I love listening to you guys at night as I fall asleep. I have trouble often sleeping, and for some reason, Dave's voice could put me out in about 15 minutes.
That's better.
Dave,
Yeah.
do you make house calls?
Yeah, I like that better. Yeah.
Say, all you would have to do is sit in the dark corner of my bedroom and randomly talk about things until you hear me snoring. I can give you a blanket and pillow if that'll help.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I get what you're saying, though, Tim. Am I boring people to sleep with my voice? Is my voice that monotone and droning that people just, or am I that comforting and filled with love like a Saint Schrader should be, Tim? That I lull people into the arms of the angels.
We don't want people bored. That's, you know.
I'm asking, do you think I bore people, Tim, with this voice? Because I'll step it up again. I'll make it different. I'll bring out the energy.
Well, maybe a switch up, like start with the I'll choose to say love here, and then really just kick it into gear.
Okay, so like this, ready?
Yep, ready.
I fully believe that true paranormal events happen to people when they are more open to them. I've had a few really interesting ones happen to me over the years, and if you enjoy this one, I'll definitely share more in the future. I've always liked living in wooded areas. There's something I find so peaceful about being secluded from the rest of society. Now, 8 years ago, I bought a house near a lake on a little gravel road. There was one house on the street, but it had been abandoned for years. So I thought I was going to have the whole woods to myself for a nice long time. However, only 2 months after I'd bought my house, a couple in their 50s moved in the other house just down the street. I used to enjoy walking my dog, Flair, down that street in the morning in my boxers. But with my neighbors now, this would probably be frowned upon. You know how when you get neighbors, you always mean to stop by in the first week just to say hello, but you never get around to it, so there's a bit of awkwardness in the air every time you see them from that point on. Well, this is exactly what happened in my circumstance. Still, after they had been my neighbors for about 2 or 3 months, there was a knock at the door one Monday evening. Much to my surprise, my female neighbor was standing there. She asked if I had a moment. I thought she needed help moving or something or was having an issue in their house, so I said, sure. She said, great. I'll be right back with a bottle of wine so I can get to know my neighbor. I silently cursed as she hurried up the driveway, back to her house to grab that bottle of wine. That 5 minutes of help had turned into probably an hour of chatting. She soon arrived back with an open bottle of wine, and we sat on the patio surrounded by the woods. After a minute or two of small talk, she made a weird segue into saying, you probably just think of me as that witch that lives next to you. Like I thought with her statement that she was just saying she could sometime be a difficult neighbor. Her dog did run loose and poop next to my front door almost every day. Ruh-roh. So there was that. I responded back with, yeah, you guys ain't been so bad. She looked at me in the eyes and seriously told me, you don't understand. I'm a witch. A third-generation witch. My mom was a witch. My grandmother was a witch. And now I, too, am a witch. I quickly looked around as we sat in the woods thinking I was on some hidden camera show. But I didn't see nothing out of the ordinary. Do you believe in witches, she asked. I definitely believe in the paranormal, and that there are things that can't be explained, I answered. I'm glad you said that, she replied, because I think I have been sent here to help you. I have been having dreams about you for the last 6 months, before I even seen you, or before we moved in. I couldn't tell if this was going to turn into a horror film or into a mature porno. In either case, I wasn't willing to be a participant. You have probably seen me out in the yard and woods a lot, she continued. I am looking for special rocks as someone, and sometimes they can provide unique powers. I thought she had been doing yard work. I guess I'm not too observant. So, are you a good witch or a bad witch? I do both good spells and bad spells. It all depends on the circumstance, she answered. Does this mean your husband is a warlock? I asked, only half serious. She said he was just an ordinary man. The wine bottle was about half empty then, and I remembered how the bottle was already open when she arrived on the patio. Now that she had disclosed that she was a practicing witch, I was kicking myself for not being more cautious. Did I just drink a potion of some sort? Well, it's getting late. I should probably get inside as I have some work to get done before going to bed tonight, I said, standing up. She stayed seated. I want you to think of me as like a second mom to you. Feel free to come over any time to discuss any problems you may be having. And don't be afraid to bring your little dog, too. I wasn't close to my real mom, and I sure as hell wasn't going to be telling this lady any of my issues in life, but I played along. Sounds good. Thank you. It was at this point that she stood up, opened her arms like she wanted a hug. And I thought to myself that if I needed to give her a hug to get rid of her, it would be a small price to pay. I went in and gave her one of those hugs where I gave my bottom half far away from the other person and just move in with the top half of my body. She responded by pulling me in tight, leaping up and planting a kiss. A warm, gentle kiss on my lips. Oh, it definitely took me by surprise, and dear Penthouse, I never thought I'd be writing this letter. She had just told me to think of her as a second mom, and now she was trying to make out with me. This wasn't a common thing in my family. I like that he says this wasn't a common thing. Not saying this never happened in his family.
Yeah.
Just that it wasn't a common thing.
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah.
So have I sparked it up enough, Tim? Is that do you think that energy has kept them not knowing what's coming next?
That you're going to get the slow clap on this deal.
Oh, yeah, I had the slow clap in college.
Yeah, well.
She quickly apologized as I firmly pushed her away to create some space between the two of us. All that I could think of was here was a witch that I'm refusing to kiss. And she also has a husband just up the street that would probably want to kill me if he had seen what just happened. It was a double whammy, Tim. A double whammy.
A whammy?
She stood around for about 30 seconds in silence, said she was sorry once again, then hurried back up her driveway to her house. That night, as I went to bed, I locked my doors for the first time in months. I'm not sure if it was just because I expected her husband to burst in or if I was worried about waking up in the middle of the night to the witch in full costume, casting a spell over the top of me. The next day, I came back from work, and she was at my doorstep again.
Very nice.
She offered her apologies once more and said she would like to make it up to me by bringing over, you guessed it, Tim, another bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to tell her I was busy, but in a friendly way. I'm busy. She definitely got the hint, but I could see the look of hurt in her eyes. Strangely enough, this was the beginning of me getting very sick for the next couple of years. I went from working out every day, being a solid 230 pounds, to getting down to 190 pounds and feeling sick all the time. It was like having the flu every single day with a fever and constant nausea. Strangely enough, I had a taste of sulfur in my mouth constantly.
Uh-oh.
I had just about every test the doctors could do when nothing was coming back with a solution. I really thought I was dying and only had another year left in me. If it wasn't for not wanting to abandon my dog Flair, I might have checked out already. Did I think the witch cast a spell on me to make me extremely ill? Oh, bother. Probably not. But could I be sure about it? Definitely not. After reading online about food allergies, I thought I would take a stab at another test. The results came back and I had no true allergy to any food. I had no intolerances. At the same time, I changed my diet to a strictly caveman diet. Only food and drinks that Barney and Fred would have eaten back in the day, Tim.
Well.
Hey, Fred. I then put my house up for sale. Slowly, I started feeling better, Barney. I began to put some weight back on, and finally my house sold as well. As I packed up my stuff on my final day at the house, the witch stopped by once again to say goodbye and wish me best. She commented that I hadn't been looking well for a while, and maybe now that would change. For the last 5 years, I've been feeling pretty decent once again. Interestingly enough, the witch and her husband moved away out of their home about a month after my house sold. While I believe many things related to the paranormal, I'd never really thought about witchcraft as something I would buy into. Casting spells and having them come true just didn't seem like a real thing to me. And while I'm not saying that I believe there was a spell cast on me to make me feel sick for those couple of years, I'm not exactly ruling it out either. And here we are in the last few sentences of the beautifully crafted letter that was sent to us, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan closes as he is about to close his eyes. He says, "Thanks for years of enjoyment of listening to your podcast, guys. Hopefully, when all of this quarantine madness gets lifted, I can accompany you guys on your next paranormal excursion somewhere. Love you guys. Take care. Good night. Sleep tight, Ryan. We love you." Huh? Did I mix it up enough? Did I keep him engaged for the whole thing?
I think so, yeah.
I think that was about a 32-minute story.
Well, close.
All right, let's see what else we got going on. Oh, how about this? Vince Vaughn, not dead after all, Tim.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Freaky Friday. Remember that movie that starred Jodie Foster as a delightful little petulant child who flips with her mom in a moment of parent and child exasperation? Oh,
yes, indeed. Mm-hmm.
Right? And they change into each other. And then it was redone with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yep.
Remember that? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that lighthearted classic Freaky Friday premise is getting a bit of a dark makeover from our friends at Blumhouse Productions, Tim. You know, the people behind every good horror movie from the last 15 years.
Yep.
It's their new teen slasher film called Freaky. Freaky Friday, for those of you that don't know, was a 1972 children's book that tells the story of a mother and daughter who swap bodies after wishing for the apparent better life of the other. The story has been adapted to screen several times, most notably in 2003 with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, although I think the one with George Burns, 18 Again, was one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Schlatter and him switch bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was, of course, Kirk Cameron and Dudley Moore, Like Father, Like Son from the 80s. There was a lot of those body switch-in movies. Then there was the movie Switch, which was great, starring Ellen Barkin.
Yep.
But I digress. Now, Blumhouse takes Freaky to a whole new place, Tim. It stars Katherine Newton from Big Little Lies as the quiet and unpopular teen Millie, and Vince Vaughn as a local serial killer, the Blissfield Butcher.
Oh.
And after being attacked by the butcher and stabbed by a magical dagger, rather than dying at the hands of the killer, Millie wakes up to the horrifying realization her consciousness is now in the killer's body. She learns she has 24 hours to reverse this or it becomes permanent, while the killer, now disguised as Millie, realizes how easy a killing spree could be with Millie's classmates unaware of what's happened. Freaky's written by Christopher Landon and Michael Kennedy, produced by Blumhouse Productions in association with Divide and Conquer. The executive producers are Cooper Samuelson, blah, 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 blah. Freaky will be released in cinemas by Universal. Are you ready for this, Tim?
Okay.
On November, Friday the 13th. Well, for those of you that may be getting ready to fall asleep as we're coming into the end of the show, let's give our listeners a chance to shine one more time, Tim.
Okay.
For a listener that actually had the guts to call in and share their story on our Beyond the Voices, or Beyond, good God, I've only had this number for 5-6 years, the Voices from Beyond voicemail. Our phone number, 651-300-4977. Call in and share your story just like this caller.
Hey guys, this is Josh from Iowa. I just want to wish Tim a happy birthday. We share the same birthday, and I got a creepy story too. So we had this dog for many, many years. Her name was Sophie, and she was a beagle and terrier. So Sophie passed away, and so we got this new dog, and I named her Echo because she goes and she finds all the bones that Sophie buried in the lawn, which is kind of creepy, and she sleeps in the same spot as Sophie in the house. She even goes to the bathroom in the same spot in the house as Sophie. So her name's Echo because I think the reincarnation factor came through. But so happy birthday, Tim, and you guys rule. So talk to you later. Bye.
Hey guys, this is Kyle from the north suburbs of Chicago. I've called in before, but I just got done listening to this past weekend's episodes, the one with the ParaShare with Tim's 50th birthday, and then Superhuman with Caroline Corey. And it kind of dawned on me that I kind of have a story that blends both topics together, kind of, that I thought might be interesting to share with you guys. So, about this same time a year ago, if we all remember, Tim was involved in a pretty bad car wreck out here in Chicago, and which I hope he's recovered well from, by the way. And just a couple months later on from that, I was driving to my home in the night, and I had my 9-year-old daughter with me, and I was coming to the end of a road where it intersected with a much busier road. And although it was nighttime and it wasn't that busy as it normally is, I saw a big moving truck coming my way, and behind it was another car, and both of them had their turn signals on to turn right onto the street that I was on. And I was trying to turn right as well onto the street that they were going to be on, or that they were on. And since I saw that car behind the moving truck with its turn signal on, that I could just pull out in front of both of them and make my turn. But just as I went to do that, I don't really know if it was like a voice or really an image that I was seeing, but time just suddenly froze, and I was suddenly just kind of hit with what I can only call a flash of existence, where I was just suddenly thinking back to Tim's whole accident and what happened with him, and I don't know if I heard a voice or whatever, but something told me to wait, and sure enough, as I waited, that car that was behind that moving truck flew past me. And although I try not to think about it too much because my daughter was with me, and I don't like to think about any trouble we might have gotten from that, but I do also think that something other than just my own tuition helped me avoid that possible trouble that night. And whether or not it was superhuman capabilities or Tim just helping me out, either way, I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you guys always doing your show. Makes my weekend very often, and I also hope that, Tim, you have a great birthday. Take care.
All right. See, it's just that simple, Tim. I don't know why more people aren't doing it.
I don't know either.
Yep. 651-300-4977. How about if I say it that way? Will that get people's attention?
I think it will.
651-300-4977. We need somebody to write a nice little jingle for our phone number.
Kind of like the Cars for Kids song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only less filled with hate and
Yeah.
anger at the end.
65130049777. Would that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Would that be irritating enough?
We're going, Tim, three final stories. The final story you get to shine on, because I know that you're a big fan of wrestling, and we've got a wrestling story.
Ah, okay.
Edinburgh ghost hunters capture a terrifying photo in Greyfriars Kirkyard. That means cemetery, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And Greyfriars Kirkyard is also the cemetery where J.K. Rowling got a few of the names for her Harry Potter series, including Voldemort's real name.
Oh, okay.
And Weasley's, I believe, and a couple other people.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? A pair of ghost hunters say they've captured terrifying images of paranormal activity at one of Edinburgh's most haunted spots. Lee and Lindsay Steer of Project Reveal, Ghosts of Britain, were filming a live stream at Greyfriars Kirkyard, reputedly one of the most haunted places in the UK, when they caught the apparition on camera. The distinctive domed tomb of Sir George Bloody Mackenzie has long had an association with rumors of ghosts and is said to be the home of a violent poltergeist. There are also extensive vaults beneath the churchyard known as Covenant's Prison, also said to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. Lee and Lindsay, who run GOB, the UK's largest paranormal investigation team with over 600,000 followers, said they had stopped off in Edinburgh as part of a tour in Scotland. Lee said, "We did the investigation and got some very interesting results. We did a spirit box session at the start of the investigation, and it said graveyard. Then it said burial and a few names. Bob, Tim, Dave, Darkness Radio. People saw strange balls of light.
Oh.
Blue and red. Oh, the blue balls are the worst.
They are.
We went to try to find the poltergeist with a Scottish team called Scottish Paranormal. Or as I like to say, Tim, Scottish Paranormal.
Yep.
Mackenzie Poltergeist has a fearsome reputation and is said to haunt the graveyard, causing physical injuries to people who incur its wrath. The graveyard reportedly has over 3,000 eyewitnesses' accounts of poltergeist activity, including scratches, burns, bite marks, and people being knocked out cold, Tim. Meanwhile, Lee reported strange apparitions appearing on the camera as they live stream the ghost hunt. Our cameras seem to pick up a few spirits, he said. Looking through the black gate toward the prison, we captured some strange images of what fans think is a man. Lindsay said, up the prison, I've got the most amazing picture. It was pitch black in there, but it looks as though there are two faces looking out at us. It's quite bizarre. The other one looked like a lady looking away to the right, she added. The ghost hunters were able to communicate with the spirit of a little girl. And Lee, a member of Scottish Paranormal, had an unnerving experience near one of the mausoleums. Back at the gate, we had put our hands through the gate, and our hands started to go numb as soon as we put them through, he said. He added, Edinburgh is a great place for ghost hunting. It's full of ancient tales and historic sites and grim history and murder. It's perfect. Now Lee and Lindsay are on their way back to their home in South Yorkshire, stopping off for an investigation on the holy island of Lindisfarne-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, another interesting story. The pictures, I don't know. I don't know that I see. I'll put it up on our news page. Where is that news page again, Tim? For people that are just tuning in and maybe didn't hear how they could find our news page?
Go to darknessradio.com/find that news page.
No, just go to darknessradio.com.
Oh.
There'll be a tab that says news.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
It'll
too.
be that simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just that. I don't know if you, that simple, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you could do it that way. That's one way to do it, Tim.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Oh, we have two final stories, Tim. Are you excited about this? Two final stories on our very first episode back here at Stitcher.
I'm very excited, yes. Yeah.
All right, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
An Irish woman is our next topic of conversation.
She walks into a bar. I've heard this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, walking out of a bar, that's where it gets weird.
Okay.
A petrified Irish woman has spoken of how she was chased out of her home in Cork by demons and another spine-chilling paranormal set of activities. The woman, Bernadette, called Cork's Red FM, where she spoke to Neil Predenville about her frightening experiences. She says she hears evil music. Evil music, Tim. It's a small world after all.
Oh, I was going to say...
It's a small world after all.
Evil music in Ireland is U2, isn't it? I mean,
ouch. No, they're actually a Christian band. I don't know if you knew that.
U2
She says, yeah, they are. Huh. They're heavily influenced by Christianity and Christian music and such. Huh. At least that's what I remember reading back in the day. Huh. She says she hears evil music being played around the house and claims to have seen beds move across the floor in front of her eyes. Bernadette also says she's been living in a tent in the woods near her house since Sunday, as she's too far scared to spend any more nights inside. It began last Thursday when Bernadette said she was woken by the sound of evil, horrible, gothic music. Okay, listen. Not everybody's a fan of Marilyn Manson, but I wouldn't say it's evil. I haven't been anywhere near the place since I ran out the door on Sunday, she said. The music apparently played throughout the house until 5:30 a.m., and Bernadette stayed up all night petrified. All she had to do was say, Amazon, turn off. Or Echo, turn off. Alexa, turn off. Do you think that's what's going on? It's her Alexa going off, Tim?
Wait, I can do it with Siri. Watch. Hey, Siri, turn off.
Well, turned it off.
She said, okay, paused.
If there's anything you should know, Tim is good at turning things off, folks.
Hey.
What? No, you could do it. Just the command of your voice.
Oh. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep.
Hey,
after convincing herself...
I could ask Siri what the most evil thing in Irish music is. Would you like to know?
Sure, let's find out.
Okay. Hey, Siri. What is the most evil thing in Irish music?
Okay, I found this on the web for what is the most evil thing in Irish music.
Oh,
check it out.
She refuses to answer directly. She doesn't want to offend anybody. Go on. I'm sorry.
Oh, she's not going to play it for us?
No, evidently not.
No. Interesting. Mm-hmm. After convincing herself that she must have dreamt or imagined the whole thing, she went to sleep the next night only to be awoken as her bed was shaking violently. When she sat up, she saw another bed in the room had been pushed right into the middle of the room up against my bed. While Neil Predenville asked her if she saw the furniture move before her own eyes, Bernadette replied, yeah, I was looking right at it in front of me. It just moved right across and banged off me bed. Then the banging and the evil music started up all over again, she explained, which prompted her to stay at a neighbor's house for the night. Did she go over with a bottle of wine, and it turns out to be the story that we were just telling?
I think it probably was, yeah.
After returning once more to the house, she said she began seeing imprinted faces on her carpet and decided once and for all that she couldn't stay there a moment longer. Ever since, she's been living in a pitched tent in the woods not far from her house, where trees throwing shadows failed to even make her jump, given what she experienced in her home. Naturally, people texting in following the call were skeptical about Bernadette's story. This isn't in any way making fun of the situation, but it is this some sort of plot for a new Stephen King book, said one listener. But Bernadette stuck to her guns, saying, if it happened to any one of them, they'd be jumping out the windows. That's it. That's the end of that story, Tim. Since we're talking about the demonic chasing a woman out of her home, Tim, that leaves us with one final strange story. Right. And you know this person, I guess. I'm not familiar. With a name like Vampiro, you'd think.
Vampiro.
That's what I said, Vampiro. It would have pinged me long ago.
Vampiro.
Yes. Some people say that they've got demons, and Vampiro doesn't mess around with that statement. He recently told a story. So this is like a news story and a ParaShare all in one, Tim.
Okay.
And I think, have you reached out to Vampiro to see if we can get him on to talk about this in depth?
I have. He actually followed me on Twitter yesterday. Nice. So, and I sent him a note, but I have not heard from him. So hopefully we'll get him on the show soon.
Well, you might not believe in demons, but Vampiro does. He recently spoke to bodyslam.net about an experience he had that would make the hairs stand up on the back of anybody's neck. This experience with otherworldly entities took place in Guatemala, when he was working with a paranormal show. This happening in a morgue was more than he bargained for. The experience left him with what he claimed were evil spirits that he had to meditate. What does that mean? He had to meditate out of himself for years.
He, if I can interrupt for just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vampiro's a very interesting person.
Okay.
Vampiro's a Freemason. He is also, he's one who is not only he does magic work, he does ritual work. And this is one of the reasons I really want to get him on the show. While he's been booking and wrestling in AAA, Lucha Libre wrestling in Mexico, and been in South America, he's also been involved with black magic. And so some of this, it's interesting that he claims he's done an exorcism on himself because he's summoned a lot of this stuff on himself. With that, continue.
Wow. Summoned it upon himself, you say?
Yeah.
All right, let's find out how. I was in Guatemala doing a segment for this paranormal show, and we were in a morgue that was attached to a cemetery. And right there, they had a crematorium because there was the Civil War and the government killed half the country. And to this day, you're walking down the street and see dead bodies. So they would take these bodies and they would take them to what's called a fosu commune, which is like a big swimming pool. It means open community hole. They would just dump these bodies in there because there's no ID and there's maybe 1,200 to 1,500 bodies every single day. So when nobody reclaims them and they're just in this open pit, they get thrown in the crematorium. So the energies there are just horrible. I went to do an investigation at this site and I couldn't even get into the crematorium because there were so many lost souls in there. I was freaking out. So we went into the morgue, and as I was closing off the show, an ambulance came in and left 2 bodies about 10 feet behind me. I think one of them wasn't dead yet. They came in after a shootout and were in body bags. So I swear, and I have it on my phone, that one of the body bags was still moving. But as I was talking about it, I turned around and the lights started flickering right over the person who I was suspected was in the process of passing on. I'm pretty sure that the person saw me because I walked toward it. And as I walked toward it, the lights and the electricity started bouncing. And I had this cold feeling that lasted for about 2 years. My daughter would say to me, "Dad, there's someone in the house." And I would feel stuff at night touch my neck. So I got a doctor from Africa who practices, how do you say that, Yoruba? Which is the first form of voodoo. And we did an exorcism and we got rid of these spirits. But I'm telling you, it effed me up so much. I was sick for like 2 to 3 years from it. I had this thing in me and I had to meditate. Oh, that's what he was trying to say. Like a mother effer to get it out of me.
Yeah.
Interesting story.
The other thing that's interesting, too, about Vampiro, and
Is that his name is Vampiro?
Well, that's not his real name. His real name is Ian.
Oh.
He's from Canada. And also toured with the Misfits for a while, the punk band.
Oh, sure.
He's also, he's got his own band now, his own punk band, and he that's mainly what he does now. He doesn't wrestle anymore. He's retired. And was a commentator on Lucha Underground, which is another program that was on a different network, a cable network. But he's got Alzheimer's, and it's advanced to the point now. He's on medications, but it's advanced to the point now where, in order to remember things, he marks them down in his phone. So he's got a bunch of different things on his calendar on his phone, and then he puts like virtual Post-it notes on his computer. And so you may think this is kind of a weird question, but I'm really wanting to ask him this question because, of course, you can cite the fact that he's been wrestling almost as long as our friend Chris Jericho has been wrestling. In fact, they came up in wrestling together. So, so that would be about 30 years. I want to ask him this question in the worst possible way. There's been a lot of hits to the head. He blames the Alzheimer's on a lot of the hits to the head. I also want to ask him, too, if there's a supernatural side, does he believe, to some of the ill health?
Well, I think that's what he said in this article. Yeah. You mean his Alzheimer's even?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because I think with some of the dabbling in that, I think he might have suffered some. I'm not saying the Alzheimer's is strictly from that. I do believe a lot of it's from some early onset stuff like CTE and stuff like that, because he's done a lot of hardcore wrestling. But I think he's had some really extreme injuries and sicknesses from, believe it or not, invoking some really bad stuff with the supernatural. He's got some very interesting stories when it comes to the supernatural. He's investigated everything from ghosts to done stuff with white magic, black magic. He's basically done it all as far as investigating goes.
Well, hopefully we can get him on the show and talk about it then. That would be great.
I'd love to. He's actually someone that I've wanted to talk to for a couple of years, but he's very hard to track down. He's
sure.
Yeah, he's a very solitary person. So,
all right. Well, check it out. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do that. We hope you all enjoyed yourself today. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the best in paranormal talk radio, and this will be our final weekend together. Starting next week, you'll start hearing our shows, True Crime Tuesday every Tuesday, Supernatural News and ParaShare on Wednesdays, and the best in paranormal talk radio continues every Thursday with an interview regarding all different aspects of the paranormal and supernatural. For Tim Dennis, I'm Dave Schrader. You've been listening to the best in paranormal activity, and we want to hear from you. 651-300-4977. Share your paranormal encounters with us on the program so that we can discuss it here on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio.